Hi, everyone. Good evening as I battle with my headset here. Welcome to Political Fixer Live. All right, here we go. Now, welcome to Political Fixer Live. I'm Shawna Presley Vercher, the host this evening to take you through this week in the news. Good news, there was a lot that happened. We've got a lot of conversation ready to go. Just so much to discuss in politics this week. Okay, let's talk about what is happening this evening that we're going to be going through. First things first, we apparently we got to his feelings with his little birthday party that nobody came to. So we are going to be talking about what he did in response by bombing Iran, what we can expect in the future, what do you all think is going to happen in the future? But most importantly, that I want to get out in today's show is I want to make sure that you have a timeline of events, what really happened, and separate that from not only the propaganda that's coming from the White House, but also what's happening with some of the mainstream media that learned nothing from the situation in Iraq and the weapons of mass destruction and all of that. So we're definitely going to be talking about that. We're also going to be covering election results. There are some key election results, some of which you might be following. We've been following the New York City mayor's election pretty closely. And we've got a couple of videos on the Political Fixer TikTok if you want to check those out, and the Political Fixer YouTube channel. And we also are following other key races in New York. Hello to everyone. I see Dirty Bad Bloggers. I see Veronica Kennard. I see Cakes just joined us. We've got so many people. We've got J Robot and Sarah on here. Lee's on. That's great. We've got all of our Political Fixer family starting to join in. So as you're joining in, then I want to know, did you vote in New York? If you live in New York, not just New York City, there were a number of elections. And I get this is kind of an off time. Fewer people participate in the municipal elections. I would love to know if any of you voted in New York. You don't need to tell us how you voted, of course, but I'd just love to know who participated. And the third thing that we have tonight, our third segment on Political Fixer Live, is actually a new segment. And it's positive. I felt like after this week, we needed something a little bit positive. So we're going to definitely try to end things on a high note, as we always do. Um, oh, good, Veronica. I'm so glad I got your last name right. I'm learning, you guys, right? I'm starting to learn how you pronounce everything now that we've been online friends for a while. I do try to ask. See Heather Cook on here. Oh, so many good people. All right. I'm sorry, good, positive people, but we're going to start with something a little bit touchy, which is the situation happening in Iran. Now, I want to tell you the angle that I decided to take from this, because I am not a foreign policy expert, but I do specialize in a few things. And one of those is messaging, and the others, it's detecting BS. And I really just want to kind of parse through everything that we're seeing and give you a slowed down timeline and call out a few things that, regardless of how you feel about foreign policy, about Israel, about things happening in the Middle East, about war in general, let's at least slow it down and get some facts. So if there are any, I know that some of you are veterans. I know that many of you follow this even closer than I do. So definitely jump in if I get anything incorrect or you feel like you could add some context, because we definitely want the most information possible. Let me start with 8 days ago. I mean, the conflict in the Middle East and all of that, we could go back literally centuries, but I'm going to start 8 days ago. All right. And again, just so happy to see so many of my Political Fixer family on tonight. Okay, let me give you some information. I'm going to look up and make sure to get as many of your comments as possible. And actually, before I dive into this, because it is a little bit of a meatier segment here that we're going on to, I want to make sure that I pull up our producer's log here so that Sarah and the team can keep me posted on comments that I might be missing, since you guys scroll so fast. And we're already at 2,000 likes. Dark subject matter, but we're going to cover it in a hopefully useful way. Okay. 8 days ago, the National Intelligence Director told lawmakers using intelligence gained by American spies that Iran was not building a nuclear weapon and that Iran's leadership had not reauthorized their dormant nuclear program. Okay, so that was 8 days ago. He said he didn't care, that he felt like they were. And so last Friday, he said he would give things 2 weeks to decide if he was going to get involved in the conflict between Israel and Iran, which was heating up. They were throwing weapons back and forth at each other, like kids do. Great questions that are coming in. Yes, definitely keep your questions coming in and we'll answer them in just a bit. Let me get a little bit further through this, but yes, definitely keep them coming in. Okay, so on Friday, he said he was going to give it 2 weeks to decide, is he going to get involved in the conflict between Iran and Israel? And that was a bold-faced lie, because at that exact time, they were already moving bombers overseas. They were already, we now know they already had plans drawn up. They were already ready to go. They were already moving things. And in fact, on Saturday evening, the United States dropped 14 GBU 57 massive ordnance penetrator bombs. And the administration took a little victory strut up to the podium to address people and said that the operation, quote, obliterated 3 nuclear sites in Iran. All right, let's just slow that down before we continue. There are a couple of statements that we need to look at specifically from that evening that are worth talking about. When we talk about the bigness of the Iran situation, the Middle East conflict in general, all of that, I think it helps to pay attention to little things that show character. When in doubt, if you don't understand everything that's going on, look at character. And so when we're looking at these statements that were made, immediately after, arguably, he had violated not just the Constitution that says that Congress has to authorize an act of war, but the Geneva Convention that says that you have to recognize the sovereignty of another nation if you are not provoked and if there's no immediate threat. The White House issued a statement saying that the bombing was, quote, a display of peace through strength. And I'm going to try to read that again without gagging. They said it was a display of peace through strength. Now, there is gaslighting, and there is whatever that is, because breaking it down in my Texan way for you, if you punch me in the face 14 times, it's not going to be any peace. You don't get to decide the terms after that, right? Like, you don't get to choose. That is not an act of peace. It is not an act of friendship, right? And anybody watching knows that I am no longer accountable for what happens next. You punched me. So that is insane logic, just insane, twisted logic. And reacting to this, he didn't just say it once. He constantly posted that because of this, he deserves the Nobel Peace Prize. So gross, so disgusting, so twisted, and it somehow gets worse. It gets worse if you are someone who practices any type of religion. And I'm not saying that you have to, I'm not saying that you should. I'm saying if you practice any type of religion, this situation somehow gets more gross. Okay, just this weekend, the governor of Texas signed a new bill into law that requires all public schools to display the 10 commandments in every classroom. It has to be at least 16 inches by 20 inches. It has to be the version that they approve. And just this weekend, the governor signed into law a clear violation of separation in church and state that said that the 10 commandments now need to be displayed in every public school classroom. So to celebrate this, I thought we could try reading one of them. Just one of the 10 commandments, shall we? Exodus chapter 20, verse 7 states, "You shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain." That's what it says. If you went to Sunday school like I did, That's one of the top 10. We could all recite it. Do not take the Lord's name in vain. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean that you can't say, oh my God? No. Does that mean that lightning's going to strike karaoke bars across the country if you're singing Sir Mix-a-Lot, Baby Got Back? Oh my gosh, look at her butt. No. What it means is you cannot use the name of God to justify acts which go directly against the teachings of God. If you do, it's one of the top 10, right? Not a good thing. Right after this bombing happened, 47 went up to the podium, and in his statements, this is a direct quote, and I want to just thank everybody, and in particular, God. I just want to say, we love you, God. Using God to justify bombing people you have never met, a clear act of violence, one of the top 10. And I, again, don't know if you're religious, and it's totally okay if you're not. But if you are religious and if you believe in a heaven or a hell, then in hell, there's got to be like a whole new wing that they're just building for these people, just like getting ready, like this whole super suite of hell that is just for these people. Because I swear to God, they violate every one of these commandments. It is fascinating to watch. Okay, before we move on to our timeline of doom with Iran, then I love Brianna saying, "Can Taco get smited?" That somehow needs to be a T-shirt. I feel like, Square Foot Gardening says, I now consider myself a follower of Jesus, but not necessarily a Christian. Totally acceptable. I would also say, don't let them take your faith away from you and bastardize it, just like they've taken patriotism or tried to take it away from us, right? Um, character character does not do war, strength does. That's what Mary John says. Gwenny says, Americans who care about their country need to wake up from their fascist dream. Very directly said, Gwenny. Love that. I also just want to take a second and welcome our regular Political Fixer family. I want to thank you so much, especially Dirty Bad Blogger, Veronica Kennard, Lulu, Joe Eclectic, and so many others. I see Square Foot Gardening. I see Liberties on here. We've, of course, got Jay Robot, and we're at already 6,000 likes. So let's keep going with our timeline of doom. I want to keep these comments going for sure. And then we'll circle back, and I have some questions for you. Not a pop quiz, but definitely want to know your opinion. Okay, so all of that was happening on Saturday night. So what happens on Sunday? And this is when it gets really interesting, folks, because if you want to see incompetence on display, boy, do I have some for you. So on Sunday during the day, they launched Operation Sell Americans on another war in the Middle East, right? And this was a hard sell because that same day, a poll had been taken by a reputable source, which is YouGov. They took a poll and they asked, do you want America to be at war with Iran? They asked Americans this question, and here were the results. 85% of people said no, and 5% of people, 5, 5 people said that yes, we should be at war with Iran. Now, numbers can be a little bit deceiving. There is a saying that the human brain really comprehends the numbers 1, 2, 3, and many. So I thought it would be interesting to put 5% on a poll in perspective for you. Okay. So 5% is the same number of people who think that the earth is flat. That's the same number of people that want to be at war with Iran, the same number of people that think that the earth is flat. I would love to see a Venn diagram of those people. More people, 7%, more people actually believe that chocolate milk comes from brown cows than want a war with Iran. Okay, 7% of people think chocolate milk comes from brown cows. 5% of people want to be at war with Iran. And nearly 5 times more people, 19% of Americans, believe that the abominable snowman is real. 5 times abominable snowman, 5% want to be in a war with Iran. So the administration had its work cut out for it. So it sent its best people to the job of the Sunday shows. I'm just kidding. They sent JD Vance and Marco Rubio. Let's talk about how they did, shall we? Okay. So JD Vance went on Meet the Press and he was asked, do they trust US intelligence? Because US intelligence told them there were no nuclear capabilities with Iran and clearly said that Iran was not capable of producing a nuclear weapon. And JD Vance said, and this is a quote, of course we trust our intelligence community, but we also trust our instincts. We also trust our instincts. That's right, JD Vance. Who needs decades of policy experience and surveillance technology and the intelligence community of a global network of spies? You have your feelings and your heart to make a decision. Forget logic, just go with your instincts, like a girl looking for love on a Hallmark movie. Well done. Rubio was somehow worse. Okay. On his hoorah tour, Rubio went to face the nation. Now, if any of you know Marco Rubio, it would not surprise you to know that he did terrible on television because do any of you remember years ago when Rubio, a young senator at the time, was asked to deliver the kind of answer to the State of the Union address, right? And he like was slurping water like he had been in the desert for like a week. He couldn't read the teleprompter. It was a train wreck that was so bad that there was a Saturday Night Live skit afterwards about Marco Rubio's television performance. He did almost as well here, folks. So he went on Face the Nation. Marco Rubio, our Secretary of State, voted in 99-0. And the host asked, are you saying the United States did not see intelligence that the Iranian supreme leader had ordered weaponization? And Rubio said, that's irrelevant. And the host said, no, that's a key point. And Rubio said, no, it's not. Forget about intelligence. I'm going to repeat it. Forget about intelligence. So I'd like to congratulate Marco Rubio for stumbling upon what is clearly the slogan that defines this entire administration. Forget about intelligence. Yeah, dozens of other officials went on television to try to reassure us that this was an act of peace, that there was nothing to worry about, that it would not be an extended conflict, and that they would not be doing anything else violent or erratic. Like they would definitely not be trying to look at any type of regime change in Iran. That was Sunday during the day. Sunday evening, 47 posted after someone apparently gave him his phone back after a nap. He posted, it might not be politically correct to use the term regime change, but if the current Iranian regime is unable to make Iran great again, why wouldn't there be a regime change? So they spent all day telling Americans that it's okay that we bombed them once because we're not going to do anything else. And there's definitely not going to be a regime change. You don't even need to worry about it. And in one post, he's like, why wouldn't we? Just hours ago, intelligence assessments by the Defensive Intelligence Agency, our guys, our men and women, confirmed that no, the United States did not obliterate Iran's nuclear program such that it was. At the most, we set it back a few months. Meanwhile, just yesterday, and this is where it gets really serious, one of our military bases in Qatar was attacked by both short range and medium range ballistic missiles, which originated from Iran. Now, thankfully, no one was seriously injured and there was no loss of life, but our men and women serving in uniform overseas were placed in immediate danger based on the actions of their commander in chief. Now, I am going to read this quote word for word that 47 said after our troops were attacked on their base in Qatar. This is the full quote. They, meaning Iran, have gotten it all out of their system, and there will hopefully be no further hate. I want to thank Iran for giving us early notice, which made it possible for no lives to be lost and nobody to be injured. So if you're trying to keep up with the plot lines through the looking glass, where we clearly are, then bombing someone unprovoked is an act of peace. And when someone attacks our men and women in uniform, we thank them for the etiquette they used when doing so. I was talking about polls earlier, about what people believe. And I want to give you one more, which is that 1 in 4 people believe that there is a parallel universe or an alternate reality. And I want to add my name to that list because, for the love of God, can someone take me off of this timeline? Like, it's just the absolute worst. The absolute worst. All right, it's your turn. You're now in the hot seat. I want to know, political fixer family. Um, do you think that bombing Iran was the right thing to do? And regardless, yes or no, do you think that this will escalate to the point of us sending more troops to the Middle East again? Right? Sarah says we need Loki's help with this timeline. I co-sign on all of that. Alice says it's crazy times for sure. Joe Eclectic says no wars, no bombing. Veronica Kennard says absolutely not. You do think, Veronica, that it's going to escalate? Is it Tamara? No, it wasn't a good idea. And yes, I think things are going to escalate in Iran. Lulu says, no, I don't think it was good. And yes, it will escalate a war. Kathy McGrath says, I honestly do not think it was the right thing to do. And surrealism, love this comment, says, depends on who will profit most from it. Isn't that how we're making all decisions these days? Lisa says, I feel like we should try to stay out of the Middle East. I think there's a number of people that have been screaming that from the rafters for years. And again, I know that it is, it's a tough, complex situation. However, I've never found that bombing someone makes close friends, but what do I know? I'm just a silly girl, right? Square Foot Gardening for You says more than 700 national security leaders and former intelligence officials publicly said that 47 was unfit. Valid point. Joan Meek says he's mocking us. 47 is mocking us and mocking the Lord at the same time. Yes, and gleefully doing so. This is a guy that signed his own Bibles. I mean, there's just, again, I'm not saying you need to be religious. I was brought up in not just a house of faith, but through happenstance as someone who moved from home to home. I had a number of parents who cared for me over the years, and they were of different backgrounds and religious beliefs. And so it was very interesting to get to see things from their perspective and get to be welcomed into those different communities. And, it's just gobsmacking to me that we are seeing this, and then we're seeing this kind of far right say it doesn't matter, do whatever you want, violate any of those commandments you feel like, big guy. Kelly Fraser says not the right thing, and yes, things look like they are going to get worse. Hannah asked a great question. Hannah Lee, spelled the correct way, Hannah. That was my name when I was born, Shawna Lee. Thoughts on Dems not wanting to impeach Trump? I get they don't have the numbers. What I would like to see, Hannah, instead of just rushing through some sort of piece of paper that seems more like a stunt, I would like to see them have a cohesive message that they have worked on together, that they all are going out and selling and beating the same drum to the same rhythm that talks about grounds for impeachment to the American public. I would like them to sell it to us. They're not going to sell it across the aisle. Do I think the results would be different on impeachment per se? No, but we aren't doing anything to combat this messaging. Now, there are a few who have been out there saying things, but the Republicans have been very organized with their messaging. For the large part, they are getting their people in line and they're saying, go say this, and they go say that. And we're not combating that messaging. Joe Collected says, yes, exactly, a true cohesive message. Alice says, because it won't happen, it will cost Americans a lot of money. The hearings themselves, you're right. They will not result in an impeachment with the numbers that we have. But we're not selling our ideals right now. And we're not explaining to people in layperson's terms why this is so bad. We are once again allowing him to frame the messaging. The entire messaging these last 48 hours has been, does Iran have nuclear capabilities? And was it the right thing to do? And does this make him strong? We did not combat that at all successfully by saying, whoa, 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 there's a process for this and there's a reason. And Democrats keep moving backwards. They're like, this was a big gamble. No, it was a violation of the Constitution. And you have to sell that idea and explain it. That's their job, right? So Cassandra asks a great question. Does the war allow 47 to argue he can use the Alien Sedition Act if if you're someone that believes that he needs to follow laws? Possibly, but keep in mind he'd already said that we were at war against Venezuela. That's how he's technically legally able to deport people to third countries and get past all these pesky due process laws, is because the court is allowing him to hide behind this idea that we're at war against Venezuela, right? So yeah, okay, Joe Eclectic brought up a really good point that I want to say. Joe, we're going to talk about this more, and I think I might do a video on it as well. So antimony is a mineral. It sounds funny, it sounds made up, but it's a really important mineral that we use in a lot of our technological advancement, our gadgets, things like that. I'm a nerd, as I've said before, and this antimony resource is rare, expensive, and we need it. And there was a chunk of it, like a huge ton of it, that was found in Iran just before this. And so if any of you are old enough to remember the whole they're actually invading Iraq for the oil thing, we might literally be repeating history again with this. They're going into Iran for the antimony thing. I want you to just file that word away. And when you start seeing it in stories, let it kind of perk up your antenna, antimony. And we're going to keep that story. We're going to keep an eye on that story, and we're going to explain it a lot more in the future. And I want to thank Joe Eclectic for bringing that up because it is really important. Karen Shaw asked the question, when do you believe that Republicans will say enough? And I'll tell you, it's when they start looking like they're going to lose their jobs in the midterms. Until we start getting closer to the midterms and this spell starts to break and they realize, oh crap, he doesn't need to run for reelection, but we do. If they start getting a lot of bad polling in their own districts, then they will break. Then they will turn against him because saving their own hide is more important than anything else, which is another reason that Democrats should be out in the communities, not just their own districts, but other districts, like people like AOC has been doing, Chris Murphy has been doing, Pete Buttigieg has been doing. They need to be in other districts explaining this to people so they can start influencing some of those numbers. Argon says also lithium. Yes, absolutely. Sugary Me says we need to elect better people. Sing it, Sister Suffragette. All right. And Surrealism says that Democrats have not figured out how to market themselves. I mean, also, okay, so it's Karma Baby has a perfect segue into our next segment, which is old school Dems need to go. Now, if you'll forgive me for just a second, I'm going to hop online and we're going to do a quick check-in to see how this pesky mayor's race is going. Okay, so we're going to try to get some results on this. Let me give you a little bit of a breakdown on things. CJ Murphy, before we close this book on Iran for now, says there are things in Project 2025 about dealing with Iran, about metalloid alimony, hardened metal for weapons. CJ, I think you're right on about this. I think that what's happening now has been planned for a while. They were looking for an excuse. What the full plan is, that's what we wait and see. And also, candidly, this dude's ability to stick to a plan. I mean, that is also a wild card. Okay, so I want to pivot to, because one of you just said about Karen says the Dems are too busy blaming Joe Biden. Okay. So hold on one second. Okay. Jasmine Crockett is awesome. That's true. We don't want to paint every Democrat with one brush. Let's go ahead and put a framework here. So it's really hard because realistically, we have a situation where the Republican Party has decided as of now that MAGA just gets to take over their own party period, right? And no matter how insane things are, they're just going to go along for the ride or encourage it or grift from it or whatever the case might be, right? Okay, fine. So they're not a viable alternative unless or until we start collectively primarying MAGA out of the Republican Party, right? The Democratic side, it used to be that the spectrum, in my opinion, was about progressive policies. Were you someone that was more conservative to moderate Democratic on your policies, or were you more progressive on your policies? And there were different flavors of that, but essentially that's how I would have defined this 8 years ago. We're no longer there, in my opinion. For what it's worth, I believe that where we are in what we're looking at are you have a spectrum of Democrats. You have people that are not adapting to a new way of politics, that actually are clinging to an old school way of doing politics. And then you have your fighters, your ones that are willing to get scrappy, that are willing to put themselves in harm's way, that are willing to speak out with the truth, that are willing to try something different, that are willing to filibuster or visit an ICE site or whatever the situation is. They're trying anything they can to fight, 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 right? And this is where we're at now, right? And so some people believe like we need to be the grown-ups in the room. If they're going to misbehave, if MAGA's going to try to tear down the house, then they're like that goldfish in Cat in the Hat. Like they're like, you shouldn't be doing that thing one and thing two, right? Like that's their form of governance. And I would argue that that is not effective. Like no one roots for the goldfish and the cat in the hat. So like that's one way of putting it, right? And like Marlene here. Oh, hi, Marlene says Chuck needs to stop with the strongly worded letters, right? Like no one likes to be admonished. No one likes the finger wagging, right? And then you've got people that are out there getting gritty, bringing the message to the people, right? Now, this new way of doing things, this kind of like microcosm of the Democratic Party and what we're going through as a family as we try to define who we are in a new, uncertain time. And change takes time. I just want to put that out there. But as we try to redefine ourselves in this new era of MAGA chaos, then we are seeing some of this in New York City. If you haven't followed the New York City mayor's primary, let me just say that in this particular situation, it is highly likely that whoever wins the Democratic primary is going to become the new mayor of New York City. Eric Adams has changed his party from Democrat to independent. There needs to be just a comedy show about Eric Adams when all of this is said and done. But anyway, that man and his problems. He's not polling well. He's not, in my opinion, doing well, okay, mentally, and he's not polling well, okay? And in the meantime, you had at the time that I entered the soap opera, you had about 9 Democrats that were running, all very different from each other, and they practice in New York City ranked choice voting. Now, here's why you should care about what's happening in New York City. There were at first 9 candidates that were polling fairly evenly, and then former Governor Andrew Cuomo. And I don't know how many of you followed Cuomo and his many scandals, but this is not weighing in. This is not trying to put my thumb on the scale of those of you who support the former governor, but objectively, the man had a number of justice investigations. He was found to be like liable or complicit in a number of situations having to do with fudging nursing home numbers during COVID and lying under oath and, 13 sexual harassment investigations. Okay, so you could say like, oh, that's just an old school way of doing things, but he's effective and he's a tough leader. You could, or you could say that New York City has millions of people in it. Can we find anyone without those pieces of baggage, please? Right? So this is what was happening. And other people stepped up. Now, here, if you get a chance, and I'm not just trying to plug this because it's my video, but on my Political Fixer channel, I just posted a video talking about the alliances, one of the alliances in particular that was formed in this election thanks to ranked choice voting. And 2 people formed together, Zoran Mamdani and Brad Lander. Now, Brad Lander, if that name is familiar to you, he is the city comptroller of New York. That is not a reason that that name should ring a bell to you. But he was also the man who was quietly escorting immigrants to court to give them some sort of protection and comfort. He's been doing this apparently quietly for weeks. ICE detained him, right? Violently, with a lot of cameras. They knew he was an elected official. They did not care. There was no warrant out for him. And I agree with you. Um, I see Kay Bruno. I think that's how Kay Bruno. He is a hero. This is what I am looking for in my leaders right now. It's not checking all of the boxes necessarily on everything I believe in, though there's a few sacred ones. Women's choice and respecting the LGBTQ community would be among them. But, you know, I feel like we also need them to be fighters. I don't need them to just check a box on a form and say you agree that we should have rights and respect immigrants and not erase Black history and some of these kind of sacred ideas. I feel like, what are you going to do to fight for those ideals, right? And Brad Lander definitely did that. Well, there's another subplot to this that I want you all to know. And then I've got some fun news for you. Okay, so not only did Cuomo like not apologize, not back down on any of the investigations, he doubled down on old school politics. Now, we could say that this is all fair game, that there's no rules in politics, really. His super PAC issued ads where Mamdani, who is Muslim, that they darkened him and thickened his beard to make him look scary. They tried to say that he hated all Jewish people, even though the alliance that he formed with Brad Lander is Jewish. But whatever, don't let facts get in this way of a good fear story, right? The New York Times put his thumb on the scale. They said last year that they were no longer going to weigh in on local elections, that they didn't consider it to be fair because they're a national newspaper. They broke their own promise to come out against Mamdani and try to scare people against him. And essentially, even though they said they had serious ethical concerns about Cuomo, they basically endorsed Cuomo. Bill Clinton came out and endorsed Cuomo. Clyburn came out and endorsed Cuomo. You had all of these old guard Democrats that were coming out, putting their thumb on the scale, right? Kay Bruno said, old school Dems are against Zoran. It's gross. Square foot gardening for you. I know it's crazy. Personally, like, it doesn't matter what I think or who I would have voted for. I guess my point of sharing this story with all of you is, isn't this what we're seeing across the board with the Democratic Party? This is not about age. When I say old school, I don't mean age. You can have younger people that are still playing by this traditional rule book that some would argue is outdated. And you can also have people that are older. Let's talk about Bernie Sanders for a second, that are like, burn the rule book. It's a different time. Get out there and fight, right? So it's not about age. I'm not trying to be ageist. When I say old school, I mean antiquated ideas, this backroom dealing, the bros will be bros mindset, right? And you youth, you just don't know. You're inexperienced and you don't know. Mamdani is not 17. He's 33 and has served as a duly elected state representative of New York for years. And yet they are dismissing him as this scrappy young guy that has nowhere, he's not supposed to be anywhere near the mayor's office, right? And Lulu says, I live in New York and I don't care about Cuomo. Alice says we need both young and seasoned. I feel like, smart, compassionate, willing to fight for us. And I would say that there were a number of candidates. I watched the debates. I was asked to cover the New York mayor's race, and there were a number. I was really impressed with Adrienne Adams. There's just so many people that if you don't like Mamdani for whatever reason, and that is your prerogative, then why couldn't the party take someone like Adrienne Adams, who has a stellar legal career, who has helped lead the New York City Council for years, who has fought successfully in court to protect New Yorkers and believes that the court system is one of the ways to stand up to 47 as a municipality. She's amazing. Letitia James endorsed her. Why couldn't the party take her under their wing and mentor her, or any of them, right? Like that's my point. Instead of putting your thumb on the scale against all of these rising rock stars, why can't you pick the ones you like, one or two, and help them get there, right? People saying, I feel like the Dems are afraid a woman won't win. Insurrealism is saying anyone but Cuomo. Well, and Joe Eclectic is saying would love to see more mentorship too. Square foot gardening reminding everyone that while age is not the consideration, maybe should be an consideration when we had not one, not two, but three congressional leaders pass away while in office this year. Great call, Square foot gardening. Okay, here's the fun stuff. We are getting results in now for this New York City mayor's race. And I would not have gone into that huge buildup just to break your hearts because you guys know me better than that. And this is early and it is just the first round of voting. But in the first round of voting, we have with 77% of the votes in very early. These are not results. This is just a moment in time. Adrienne Adams is at 4%. See, I really liked her. Brad Lander, the gentleman detained by ICE, 11.5%, Andrew Cuomo at 35.8%, and Zoran Mamdani at 43.8%. As of now, Zoran Mamdani is not only in the hunt, he is in the lead. So we're going to keep following this. I want to let you know that we are probably not going to have results of this today. Ranked choice voting takes a long time to calculate. But here's the thing that I would like to tell you. As we got yet another wave of votes that just came in. I'm doing some quick fuzzy math here, 400, 700, 800. I'm looking at nearly 900,000 votes. And the statistic that I got right before I went on the air with you guys is that at least 30% of the votes that were cast in the last week were young people under the age of 40. This is what we need. We need more people from different backgrounds running for office, not just the same people. And I will also stand on my soapbox just a little bit longer and say, yes, this is why I love primaries. I know a lot of Democrats are anti-primary. I am very pro-primary for this reason. It got people paying attention. They turned out. And so far, we're looking at least 900,000, if not 1 million votes cast in a mayor's race. This is phenomenal. This is already a win in how they did it, right? So, all right, let's keep going. We're going to keep following these results. I'll let you know with live updates on this. I also want to give a shout out. This is not a paid plug. This is just, we always complain about the media and we always talk about people that are doing it wrong. When I am looking at election coverage, I want to heavily encourage you all to read. It's free, but you can choose to donate. Bolts magazine. You can find the website. Sarah, help me out if you don't mind. It's boltsmag.org, BOLTSMAG.org. They do a brilliant job of not just covering elections and social justice issues, but they do it locally. Like they will break down and suddenly I'm like, oh, I didn't realize I cared so much about this sheriff's race in Topeka, and they tell you why and who the people are, and they do it with a social justice perspective, and they are my number one go-to source. When you guys are wondering how I'm prepping for these shows, Bolts Mag is one of my favorite places to go. So since I've been ragging on the press and how they've been covering the situation in Iran, I wanted to give you something positive. Again, I don't get paid for that. It's not anything like that. I don't even think they know who I am. Doesn't matter. Anytime I can give you good information, I love to share that with you, right? Lulu says in San Antonio, Gina Ortiz, oh yes, won the mayor's race. Hispanic LGBTQ woman, yes. That was another important race. We are seeing, listen, we can bash the overall Dem with a capital D strategy all we want to, but let me tell you, to what you're pointing out there, every special election has overperformed. Every off-season election has overperformed. And while the DNC might not have its act together, again, that's them in their ivory tower. The people are taking matters into their own hands, which is why I think it's important to talk about what we could do that would work rather than just bash what is not working. We talked about mentorship. We talked about getting candidates that are intelligent and charismatic and speak to people of all ages, right? And people are still mad at me that Harris didn't win. I'm mad that Harris didn't win too. We all worked really hard on that race. And the thing about elections and being a social justice warrior is sometimes you lose. So, it's one of those things. I don't go into social justice because I'm always going to win. There's been a number of times that I have just bawled after something way more serious than an election. As serious as elections are, I get way more worked up when I lose a client to a life sentence in prison that I know wasn't guilty. I'm not an attorney, but I deal with crisis management. I deal with families. I get really way more upset when I lose a custody hearing, when I'm testifying on behalf of a wife with against her abusive spouse and the kids get placed in a home that I know is not safe. I get really upset when I lose social justice legislation and I know that kids are going to stay in situations where they're abused and their lives are just taken from them essentially for doing a juvenile crime. These are the things that I lose sleep over. When you fight in social justice, when you fight for other people, you don't do it because you're about to join, the Patriots and run up the score. You do it because it's the right thing to do and you know you're going to get your heart stomped on again and again and again, but the alternative is to look away. And people that have way less than you, that have just been beaten down by life, who do not have the voice that we all collectively have, that they will be hurt. And that alternative is somehow way worse than losing. Not fighting, way worse than losing. So I know some of you are upset about the Harris loss. We were all upset about the Harris loss. And we all took time. Many of us took time. Thank God the holidays were right after that, right? But you get up and you fight. That's what you do. And you get ready and you're going to take it on the chin again and again and again. But welcome to the rebellion. That's what it is. And on that note, we've got some fun things. Before I dive in, I don't want to lose you, my preciouses. I want you to mark your calendars for me. All right. July 15th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Mark your calendar. That is going to be our next live. Speaking of mental breaks, I am going to be taking a summer hiatus with my family for 2 weeks. And I don't even know if I'm going to check the news. I'll be honest with you, but I will come back prepared and ready to go. And Sarah and Jay Robot and Rob and Heidi and so many others have been working together. We are going to have a great show for you on Tuesday, July 15th at 9 p.m. And we've got so many fun surprises and positive things for you. It's going to be a lot of fun. So don't worry. I have not been snatched. If you don't see me next week, I'm just taking summer hiatus, right? Okay. Seeing a lot of positive comments. We're going to do a really fun, positive segment. Let me get some of your comments here. Kathy's telling me to enjoy it. Okay, Cassandra says, we could turn the tide even here in Iowa if the establishment Dems don't meddle. Listen, here's the great news, Cassandra. Establishment Dems are inept. So even if they meddle, you're probably okay. Lulu says, I keep hearing that they are looking into the election. There will be a trial in September. Lulu, I'm following that story very closely, and I'm trying to discern fact from conspiracy theory and blind optimism. I will tell you that I don't have all of the facts yet. That's why I have not intentionally weighed in on this. But when I get back, we are going to do a podcast episode at least, and probably, and we'll definitely talk about it on the live, about the election and what I find one way or the other. This is where my nerdiness and computer background come in handy. So we are looking into that seriously. I'm unwilling to speak publicly about what I found yet, but I will get back to you, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and no problem. That's why we're here. Okay, love you guys. New segment. This one's fun. Okay, this one's fun, and I think we're going to keep this one going and occasionally do this moving forward on Political Fixer Live. We are at around 44,000 likes on this lovely Tuesday after a very hard week. I hope that you guys like this one. Let's see if we can get up to 50K likes with this. Okay. So our latest segment was inspired, believe it or not, by the White House. And yes, I mean this White House. Many of you know, you can tell by my poster on the wall, that I am a sci-fi fan and I particularly love Buffy and I love Star Wars. And this particular segment has to do with Star Wars. I know I talked about Andor a couple of weeks ago. This is different. Stay with me. Even if you have not seen Star Wars in a very long time, even if you were never really into it, let me just describe really quickly just the overall plot of the Star Wars universe is that an evil group of rulers known as the Empire, they use fear, violence, and massive weapons to stay in control of the universe. And the rebellion in Star Wars is a grassroots resistance movement. And it has ordinary people, right? It's got pilots, it's got smugglers, it's got former soldiers, it's got princesses, and yes, it has a Wookiee. And the rebellion are fighting back against a brutal dictatorship that controls the galaxy. So I guess it would not surprise many of you to know that I've been rewatching and really digging into the Star Wars groups and the different movies, and you can see where this is kind of speaking to me later, right? And Brianna says Sith Lords versus Jedi Rebels. I want to give J Robot credit because he says the movie we're living in right now is Spaceballs, and that absolutely feels accurate. When we were celebrating all of the successes of No King's Day, we missed a milestone that I came across later that I thought was really important to share with all of you. There was a presidential memorandum that was issued to justify our government using the Department of Defense, the Department of Homeland Security, and the National Guard against its own citizens. And in that presidential memorandum, this was the quote. It said, to the extent that protests or acts of violence directly inhibit the execution of the laws, they constitute a form of rebellion against the authority of the government of the United States. So I'd like to congratulate all of you that just a couple of weeks ago, via executive decree on a presidential memorandum, they made it official that all of us creating content, speaking out, going to a protest, standing up against authoritarianism, we have officially been labeled by this White House the rebellion. So I welcome all of you to the Star Wars universe. Let me tell you what our new segment is. Just like in Star Wars, members of the rebellion take many shapes, size, colors, and anyone can be a hero. That's kind of the point of the whole series. So we have a new series, a new segment on Political Fixer Live that I'm calling Welcome to the Rebellion, where we're going to highlight these unlikely heroes on our side. All right. We got 3 for you this evening, all positive. So let's and then I'm going to ask you all to weigh in on who you think should be welcomed into the rebellion. So again, we're talking about unlikely heroes, everyday people that are doing things to stand up to the empire. Okay. So, the Catholic Church. Welcome to the rebellion. Not something I would ever say. Okay. You guys are going to love this story. I don't know if you saw this, but if you've been following this new pope, regardless of your religious affiliation and regardless of the, let's say, troubled history of the Catholic Church that many of us are aware of, this new pope is nothing short of adorable. And he's also been fearlessly, in his own way, standing up to this administration. And recently, he quietly asked a colleague of his, who is Bishop-elect Michael Pham, who actually was in the running to become Pope himself. He asked Bishop-elect Michael Pham to start escorting some of the immigrants to their court case hearings. And Michael Pham took this opportunity as a way to stand up to a community that is being oppressed and violated, and he took it really seriously. So he put a call out to other dioceses and to other officials in the Catholic Church and said, we should be standing up for this immigrant community who's with me. And he did show up. He showed up to a San Diego courthouse. And according to people who were watching, I want you to imagine this. You've got all of these big macho guys that are coming in to, beat up on some immigrants. And they've got their weapons and their vests and their masks and whatever. Here comes a guy wearing the full garb, the full bishop gear, right? Forgive me, I don't know what it's called, but the collar and the robe and the whole thing, right? And they scattered like bugs. They scattered. It was so effective. They didn't know what to do. In fact, one of the prosecuting attorneys that was trying to plead a case to lock up this immigrant without a key to Lord knows where, they came up to the bishop and said that they were conflicted, that their moral conscience was saying that they shouldn't be doing this, but their job is making them do it, right? It was effective. It was so effective and so disruptive that they had to cancel most of the hearings for the day because the court couldn't function just because a spark of conscience walked into the room, right? And there's something powerful to that, right? What are they going to do? Like put their hands on a bishop, right? Um, so, Hope Universe says, I love that you don't know what it's called. Listen, I do my best. I'm not trying to be disrespectful of the faith. I promise you. I just don't know, and I don't want to say the wrong thing. Okay. So, it says people come in fear. They are clearly preying on the most vulnerable. There's a reason they're going after gardeners and people that work in restaurants, right? They're not out on the streets looking for criminals. They're not going in the backyard of somebody in a stand your ground state. They are looking for the people they think they can bully. And he disrupted that. And it was amazing. And he's going further. He's calling on the Catholic Church to keep doing this. Like have more bishops go to court and sit there quietly and make sure these people's rights and their person are not violated. You know, I was very surprised. Heartwarming story. Look him up. His name is Pham. He's just the most lovable looking guy. And I think it's a very heartwarming story. So not just Catholic Church, but Bishop Pham, who I had never heard of before, but now I'm in love with. Welcome to the rebellion. All right, let's keep it going. LA Dodgers, welcome to the rebellion. Okay, I'm an Astros girl. But the LA Dodgers stepped up. They said that they denied entrance to ICE who tried to go into the Los Angeles stadium and basically scare and snatch people during a baseball game. So according to the Los Angeles Dodgers, they said ICE agents came to Dodger Stadium. They were denied entry, and so they wouldn't say why they were there. They would not produce identification. They later denied being there, even though there was surveillance footage of all of them standing around their vests and their gear and whatever, saying that they were going to do that. And they wanted to come in. Why did they want to come in? Okay. Particularly in baseball, 30% of their players are of Latin or Hispanic heritage. 30%. Baseball has an extremely high fan base, particularly the LA Dodgers. They are considered to be, but they were playing the Padres, and those two teams in particular, it was expected to be a very diverse group of people turning out. And so what better time to wreak horror and terror among people than at a baseball game, right? So they tried. There were no kindergarten graduations happening that weekend, I guess. And the LA Dodgers said, no, you cannot do this. You do not have a warrant. You cannot come in here and disrupt all of our fans and everything and terrorize them. And they sent him away. So welcome to the rebellion, Los Angeles Dodgers. So if you get a chance, take a look at that story. And this one is fun. All right. Welcome. Welcome to the rebellion, heiress of Walmart. It's just, we have strange bedfellows in our rebellion, but all are welcomed as long as they fight on the side of good. All right, so Christy Walton was married to one of the sons of Sam Walton, the late founder of Walmart stores. Fun fact, I was in Arkansas visiting cousins when I was very little, and Sam Walton was actually one of the greeters that night at a Walmart, and he was standing there shaking everyone's hand. I guess that's something that he liked to do. And so, he was like, hi, welcome to Walmart. And I didn't know who he was. I was a little kid, and I just like shook his hand and then went. And my dad said, do you know who that was? That man invented all of the Walmarts. So anyway, so Sam Walton, he was just the nicest guy. I don't know anything about him much besides, obviously really good at logistics. His daughter-in-law, or one of them, Christy Walton, she recently placed a full page ad in the Sunday New York Times. I don't know what that costs. I'm sure she can afford it, but that's not the catch. She placed a full page ad in the New York Times advertising the No Kings protest and encouraging people to get involved. I know you can't read it from here, but I wanted to show it to you. Full page color ad. And on it, she had a list of declarations for Americans. We care for our veterans and our children. We honor our commitments and stand by our allies. We respect our neighbors and trading partners. We defend against aggression by dictators. Just a whole list that you can read if you want to Google Christy Walton No Kings ad. Here's what I found really inspiring by this. She included the phrase, "We are the people of the United States of America. The honor, dignity, and integrity of our country is not for sale. Our government is of the people, by the people, for the people." And she signed it with her name. She didn't create some shadowy pack where you couldn't trace it back to her. She didn't hide behind a group of lawyers or try to get all of her friends to sign up and then like kind of hide in the shadows. She put her name, she put her email address. She was like, "Yeah, come and get me." Right? And the people threatened to boycott Walmart because she did this. She didn't care. People threatened her person and with violence. She didn't care. And this ad, it turns out she wasn't done. It's just the beginning of her rebellion. And to be honest, Christy has been in the rebellion. I just did not know her game. All right. Let me tell you what else she's been doing that I learned about today when I was researching this story. For those of you that might have been following, then RFK Jr. was testifying about the vaccine situation and, basically like, "Oh, I didn't know that cutting all of the funding of these programs would hurt sick people." Anyway, that was today. Very discouraging. Well, people are not going to just stand by and watch America succumb to preventable diseases. And in fact, there was an organization that was launched recently called the Vaccine Integrity Project. Now, this organization is bringing together researchers, pharmacists, physicians. The way they describe it is they are trying to bring together a coalition of people everywhere from research to the needle that administers these vaccines to continue researching and also have an independent verification on whether or not they are safe, right? So think about this. We can't trust our own government anymore. And we need to know if things are actually safe. We can't just assume everything is safe, but we can't just take conspiracy theories and witch hunts either. So this organization, the Vaccine Integrity Project, they're going to be doing ad campaigns to push back against some of the myths and misinformation. They're going to try to start another fund that makes sure to get the necessary vaccines to people who need them and make sure they don't have to pay, particularly young children. And they're trying to form an independent committee that can evaluate the safety of vaccines that we can all trust. Okay, if you're going to be independent, where your money comes from matters, because you can't have an independent coalition of people deciding if vaccines are safe brought to you by big pharma, right? It doesn't work that way. Would anyone like to guess the person who silently funded this entire project? This entire vaccine integrity project, extremely expensive, officials and specialists from all over the world. That's right, it was Christy Walton. Christy Walton, the heiress of Walmart, has been using her money for good. She has been sticking up for people. She has been trying to do the right thing with her money. And this is, I know we talk a lot about people doing the wrong thing. I know we talk about people that disappoint us, people that let us down, people who are weak. So, Christy Wilson, heiress of Walmart, I was not aware of your game. Welcome to the rebellion. So many others, right? As hard as things are getting, and I know some of you have relatives in Iran, you're worried about things. Many of you have sons and daughters and family members who are actively serving. You're worried about them. These are really serious times. But what I hope you take away is that you are not alone and that there are so many good people that are fighting in this rebellion every day in little and big ways. And even something as small as showing up for someone, literally, like Bishop Pham did, literally just showing up for someone, that can have a ripple effect that we can't even understand the level of that impact, right? All right. Linda says there are free Harvard courses online, including how understanding how our Constitution protects our rights. Great point, Linda. I love those resources. And so if any of you get a chance to find the online courses, Harvard's been doing a lot of that. I think that's their little form of rebellion, by the way, because he's been picking on them lately. They started expanding their civil rights and history courses. So I thought that was really interesting. And Lulu saying I still hate Walmart. That's totally fair. I'm not sitting here saying that you need to go shop at Walmart. Christy has enough money. Christy Walton is fine. She does not care if you ever shop at Walmart ever again. But she lucked into this money in a way, right? I'm sure she's a nice person. We're seeing that. But she married wealthy and then she inherited the wealth when her husband passed away. At that moment, her life became a choice. She could have bought an island and disappeared somewhere, and we would never know who she is. And that was well within her right. She could have used it to start an evil empire of rockets, destroying Twitter, spewing your spawn for no apparent reason, and making cars that explode. That's what she could have done with her money. She chose not to do that, right? And so I feel like when people have that choice in life and we can choose light or dark, that it's great to see someone choose light. You know what I'm saying? And so I agree that Walmart should pay their employees more, as should Amazon. I agree that there's a lot of problems with these corporations, and I've actually seen it from other sides too, like the supplier side and how they treat some of their vendors. Not like like capitalist giant corporation here. I'm saying when people have an option, when they are given some form of privilege or a microphone in front of their mouth or a moment to either step up or run away, that we gotta celebrate those moments when they do the right thing, because it helps all of us, right? um Square Foot Gardening for You says, speaking of Harvard, I hear they're looking to strike a deal with 47. All of the universities are freaking out because this is impacting all of their budgets. The trade war and the possible inflation is impacting all of their budgets. They are all going to be making reductions and cuts and changing their course curriculums. Whether or not they strike a deal with him remains to be seen. And here's the thing, even if they do, he doesn't honor his deals, so it really won't matter. I don't know why people don't understand this. Like, all you're doing is basically putting yourself in a position and saying, stop hitting me for a little while, please. That's really all you're doing when you strike a deal with this guy. I want to ask you guys, who do you think are people we should be welcoming into the rebellion? What are other positive news stories that you feel like we're missing? What are things that you saw that you're like, oh, that one made me smile, or finally somebody did something about that, right? It's okay if you don't know right now, but I want you to start thinking about it. And if you think about other people that should be included in our Welcome to the Rebellion segment, that we should celebrate them doing the right thing and speaking out or doing something for others, hit me up. And definitely don't forget to go to politicalfixer.com, where I want all of your story ideas, not just the ones about this segment, but all of them. All right. Hold on. I want to look at some more comments here. All right, we are at already over 67,000 likes. Yay! That's awesome for a Tuesday. Great job, everyone. And I again want to remind you, mark your calendars for July 15th. That's going to be our next live segment after summer hiatus. And Disney, Marlene is saying no MAGA hats are allowed. I want to verify that, Marlene, but that's amazing if that's the case. Here's the thing. I'll say it this way. If that is true, and I have no reason to doubt you, Marlene. I just know that sometimes we can get our news and then find out that later it was someone just being funny. I have fallen for more than one Onion headline myself previously. But Midlife Cringe is saying that they heard that too. All the people who showed up to protest, Linda is suggesting as a nomination for Welcome to the Rebellion. Definitely agree with you on that. Okay, Cassandra is saying McCallan Mankel and Charlie Wishman are people to look at in Iowa. Sarah, do you mind looking at that and telling me McCallan Mankel and Charlie Wishman? Let's look at that later. I love that. Eclectic says Onion's been way too realistic lately. Okay, yes, but honestly, making me LOL. I'm serious. Today, I laughed out loud when the Onion had a headline that said Hegseth left wondering if uranium makes a good mixer. Sorry. Okay. So who are the ones you think should be a part of the rebellion? And then we definitely are going to ask you guys to share what topics you think that we should have next time. So we covered a lot of ground tonight. We talked about what was actually happening with Iran. Here's the thing. Iran has their own state media. We're getting very dang close to corporate media becoming state media. We don't know what's true. What we know is that we can't trust the people in charge. And so I just want you guys to take every single headline that you hear, and I want you to ask yourselves a question immediately, which is, how do you know? Right? Who says? So if they say Nuclear sites completely destroyed. According to whom? How did you verify this, right? I see Wendy just showering with gifts. Thank you so much to Wendy and so many of our fixers. Let me give you guys a quick update. Sarah is reminding me to give you guys a quick update on the votes. We are at 89% reporting with the New York mayor's race. Lulu, thank you so much for the gift. Zoran Mamdani is still on top, 43.5%. Spike 17, thank you so much. And Nev says, thank you for creating a safe space. We appreciate you, Nev. I appreciate all of you making this a safe space. And I can't see all of the comments as fast as they go. That's why I'm so grateful for the political fixer team, including Sarah and J Robot that are on tonight. But Cynthia, if you missed the beginning, don't worry. In just a little bit, it'll automatically be posted to YouTube at Political Fixer, and you can get it and just like fast forward through the scrambly parts that you find boring. But I actually do. I'm going to tell you, if you want an update on Iran, then you, especially because I'm getting to know you just a little bit, I do think you should check it out. So usually takes an hour or two to render on YouTube. But if you go at Political Fixer on YouTube, and that goes for everyone, you can get the entire episode for free. You can fast forward, play it on double time when you work out, or make it into a meme and mock me mercilessly on the internet. Whatever floats your boat and makes you happy, that's why I'm here. I'm here to serve. So Zoran Mamdani is in the lead at 43.5%. Andrew Cuomo is now doing some quick math, over 7 points behind at 36.3%. Brad Lander is at 11.4%. Now, I just really quickly, let me tell you what to kind of expect with ranked choice voting, because it is a little confusing because most of us don't have it. So the way that it works is everybody got to file and mark. And by the way, I'm now a fan of ranked choice voting. Like, I'm going to get the t-shirt and the swag. I'm going to see them on tour. Like, I am a huge fan of ranked choice voting. I think we should have it across the country. I want to hear what you guys think if you live in an area with ranked choice voting. But you get to number your favorite candidates or the candidates you support 1 through 5. You do not have to select 5 if you don't want to. And there were more, in this case, more than 5 candidates. Okay, so what happens? They do the first round. And let's say, I know that some have dropped out. So let's just say there were 8 for sake of discussion. So let's say there were 8 candidates. They tally up all of the votes. And whoever is in 8th place at that time, that person gets eliminated, kind of like musical chairs. But the people who voted for that person, the next choice on their ballot, whoever that is, gets realigned. So if you said you were voting for John Smith and John Smith got eliminated, if you said your second choice was Cuomo, Cuomo would get a vote in the round 2. If you said your second choice was Brad Lander would get vote in round 2. So that's how it works, is that your votes kind of get realigned. And this happens round after round after round, unless somebody gets over 50% overall, right? So we're watching to see. So not just who voted for everybody in the first round, but who was their second choice? Who was their second favorite? So how many people voted for one of those candidates that gets eliminated that also cast their vote for Cuomo, Mamdani, or Lander, the top 3 choices right now, right? Joe Eclectic says, would love to see ranked choice voting, never got to experience it. Square Foot Gardening for You says that my explanation in the last video helped me. I'm so glad. I'm so glad. I've been glued to this. Linda says, I heard about it and I like it. Let me tell you something else I've been following with this. When you do something like this, like, I want you to think about the presidential primary. Let's not think about this one because it was kind of predetermined that Kamala Harris was going to be the nominee. We really didn't have a primary per se, but think about the one before, right? Where it was Pete Buttigieg, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders. You had all of these people. What if you could cast your vote for like your favorite and not get told like, oh, that's a waste of a vote, they're never going to win? Then rank the next one, the responsible choice, as number 2. You'd actually get to have your voice heard the way you feel these candidates deserve your voice, rather than just all of this mental calculus that we go through, partly built on who we think actually has a chance. It's kind of this mind game that we've trapped ourselves into. Lulu wants to know, when will the country wake up and vote in a woman? Girl, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, let's be optimistic and assume there will be an amazing vote for president this next time. I admire your optimism. Catherine says, thanks for explaining ranked choice voting. I had to have it explained to me, Catherine. Like, here's the thing. I don't assume that you all know things. Maybe you do. All of you are smart. You know almost all my trivia questions before I even finish asking them. But for me, I don't know all this stuff. It's not natural to me. I didn't study political science in college. I studied business and computer science. I'm a nerd. So this all is kind of foreign to me. So I try to make it where everybody understands it. So we're going to keep going with following this race over the next several days. I'm not leaving on my hiatus until next week. So if things develop that are interesting, whether in political events with us overall or in New York City, then I'll definitely keep you posted. Before we go tonight, however, I want to give you a couple of other results that I want you to watch that haven't been reported on as much. And again, I want to thank Bolts Magazine for this information. Um, one of the things that we're looking at, I want to see what happens in Rochester, New York. There is a Democratic primary that's happening in their city council. And again, this is why I love independent publications like this. If you want another good publication, Mississippi Free Press, really well done. Anyway, according to Volkswagen, so the reason that they studied this particular race, the Rochester, New York Dem primary, is there is a woman running who is Mary Lupien, and forgive me if I'm mispronouncing your name, Lupien, and she cast the lone vote against the council after the George Floyd murder. She said that the city was spending way too much money on the police department, and she is challenging the mayor on these proposals to bolster other public services like mental health services, things like that, instead of just an endless budget of weaponry, etc. So we're waiting to see if Mary Lupien is successful in her primary or not. These are the types of stories that they're ripple effects, right? Someone stood up, and she, in this case, was the lone voice that said, wait a minute, is there a way we can do things differently? Right. And we're waiting to see how she does. Now, if you'll forgive me, I actually have no idea how to look into the Rochester election results for tonight. So we're going to see if I can get that answer for you. Here we go. I do not see them yet, but we'll keep looking. Lupien. Let's see here. Okay, we do have a result for you. So this is for mayor. So she was on city council. This is for mayor. Right now, this is not final, but she's running for mayor. This is her primary. 141 out of 237 precincts are reporting. So more than half of the results are in. And Mary Lupien, who stood up in city council, was the lone voice asking for reform, police reform. She is leading. She has almost 2,200 votes. And oh no, she's not leading. Malak Evans has 4,200 votes, but she's hanging in there. So we'll see what happens. All right. So Bolts Mag is where I'm getting this information. Definitely follow more of these results. Here's why I say to do this. These are other ways that people are speaking out. And if you haven't registered to vote or you haven't checked that registration in a while, I know we talk about midterms, and I know that we talk about like the presidential race, but a lot of you have governor's races this year. You have state representative races this year or next year. The municipal races matter. So definitely let's try to get our bearings and get registered and get more participation in those races as well. I was really discouraged when the No Kings protest had a really, I want to say it was Norfolk, Virginia. It was one of the places in Virginia, and they had a really great turnout for the protest. And then the election happened like 3 days later that Tuesday, and they had like a 3% turnout. So we've got to get things moving forward in our actual voter turnout. And Joe Eclectic brings up a really good point. The more local your election, the stronger your vote counts. That's a great way of looking at that. I love that. Brianna says, whoop, whoop, school boards are right now too. Love that. And Square Foot Gardening for You says, just attended 7-hour training. God love you. On getting Democratic candidates to run in my Red County in Maryland. Love that. It is very hard to get candidates to run. I don't blame them, but I've been on the other end of that candidate recruitment. I have begged people to run for different offices. I'm here in Florida, but I do work throughout the Southeast as well as in New England. And it's hard to ask somebody to put themselves out there, do all of this work, get attacked, put your family now literally in danger, right? It is a hard ask, but we need more heroes to step up, right? One at a time. Love that thought, Brianna. Okay. Square Garden says, I'm an unaffiliated voter, but asked me to help her run for state house. Love that. A Dem asked me to help her run for the state house. Listen, you don't have to be an affiliated voter. You could, many of you listening have messaged me and told me that you're either independent or you're Republican. And that's what it takes. Republicans need to also get involved in their own elections because that's how you get MAGA out. That's how you get people primaried, is you look in and you see who supports what I believe and who just supports the ego of one man, right? So we need Republican voters to be involved in this rebellion as well. Otherwise, this isn't going to change. We're not going to fix the entire system. Um, Karen asked, or sorry, Kareem asked, how do you feel about a viable third party? I feel that over time, the only viable option we're going to have as the United States is to break out into 5 or 6 parties, similar to Canada and other countries have across the world. What I think is, unfortunately, that these next few years are going to be about saving the house from burning down. And so we won't have that opportunity. Here's what I'm hoping, and here's what I'm working towards, that we build our own infrastructure and organization with each other, like we're doing now. We find our communities, we find our people, and we start putting some strength and some resources around that in the coming weeks and months. That's a little bit of a hint of a spoiler for you for when I get back on July 15th. We've got a lot of fun things planned around that. So we start building this organizational infrastructure so that, yeah, we have to get the people who are in office right now enabling him, we have to get them out. Even if, like, I could not, I don't love my congresswoman. I've made no bones about that. Is she a Democrat? Yes, I think she is feckless. And I've told her this. I have done a video about it and watched her chief of staff watch it right in front of me. I'm in a unique position where I actually see and look people in the eye and tell them things. And I have to stand behind that. I have to be accountable to that statement. And I've asked her to be stronger as a voice for others, not hide in a safe blue district, right? But I have to vote for her. That's where we're at. Unless somebody comes in and primaries her, which is not likely to happen, but if someone comes in and primaries her, then I would vote for them because that's where we're at. We are literally at the lesser of two evils phase. I don't think she's evil. I think she's feckless. That's two different things, right? I don't think she's out there like, I wish that she would say more about immigrants and their right to be here and what they do for this country and stick up for them. But is she kidnapping them? No. So guess what? I'll go for the feckless over the evil, right? So that's where we are. But we have to be smart about it. We can't just give them blind loyalty. That's how you get a MAGA, is if you just give your party blind loyalty. We have to strategically primary people in safe blue areas when we have the resources and it will make a statement and we have good men and women to do so. We have to get organized so that we can create demands of them once they are in office. And then, yes, I do think we have to organize and make some serious changes, either to this party or to start another party after we get past this next presidential election. No one wants to hear that. I don't want to hear that. When the election results came out this last time, we all knew that our lives had changed and whatever plans we had to put them in the shredder. So I think this is an 8-year project. I think in the time that people get medical degrees, that's what it's going to take for us to fix this freaking set of politics now that he broke. But, what better way to do it than to spend time with lovely people like yourselves? Is it going to be a lot of work? Yeah. But when I come here on Tuesdays and I get to spend time with so many of you, it's not all bad, right? When we get to see heartwarming stories about people saving each other and being kind to each other, we're reminded, oh, yeah, that's why we all do this. You all make it worth it. All these people that we're seeing, they make it worth it, right? Thank you, Cassandra, so much. So, all right, we are at almost 100,000 likes. You guys are asking such great questions. Brianna says Jasmine is awesome. Listen, Jasmine Crockett is amazing, and she is a powerhouse almost unwillingly. She's not someone that ran for Congress and said, let me be a star. She spoke out. She got angry. She got caught on a hot mic being angry and saying the truth. And that truth penetrated to people. She's a mom. She's a regular person. She was an attorney. She's super smart, and she's not just doing it for fame. And I think that's one of the reasons a lot of us gravitate towards her, right? I think there's so many people that are just, we talk about people that disappointed us, but there are unlikely heroes. Brianna says, yes, truth to power. Kathy McGrath echoes, I am pleasantly surprised at how quickly AOC has learned this game and played it smart, right? I mean, I don't know that I had as much confidence in her ability to change the system. I had the confidence that she would be effective. She is such an effective communicator. I'm looking to see if I can get you guys some election results here. She's such an effective communicator. She's someone that had a skill set that I always knew that we as an electorate needed. But the way that she's learned the entire game and then just decided to flip the game board, very impressive, right? New Mexico's Stansbury. Okay, I'm going to make a note of that. Hold on. Literally making a note of this. New Mexico's Stansbury. Hold on. Mexico Stansbury. Not familiar, but we'll definitely check it out, right? Other people are saying he's fantastic. See, I didn't even know the pronouns there. Stansbury. Got it. Pete, Mayor Pete is also awesome. He, I think that, you know, and we always say, oh, they're awesome, they should run for president. No, we just need them to be awesome and do their jobs right now. We just need them to be awesome and take whatever shovel is in front of them and help dig us out of this mess. I'm not even worried about the presidency. I don't even think we need to anoint one of them as our leader right now. I think we just need them all pick up a shovel and dig us out of this mess. That's what I need. Great. You have a lovely dig, sir. You have a lovely technique. Get to work. That's what we all need to be doing. Oh, Melanie Stansbury. Got it. Stansbury is a she. Got it. Thank you for clarifying that. I wasn't sure who it was. I'm watching like cross conversation right now. Dems need to run against Cruz, Cornyn, Abbott, and Paxton. Paxton is so bad. And I'm a Texan, everyone. I'm in Florida now, but I'm a Texan, and Paxton is so unbelievably bad. Like Rick Scott bad. Okay. So I want you guys to end on a positive note here. I want you to start thinking of and looking around for your heroes, the people that are doing things in a quiet way that you admire, that you respect. It could be standing up against this empire, or it could be little things like the teachers that are pulling in extra things to keep their kids safe as ICE is raiding their classrooms, right? Or that their parents' future is undetermined. It could be doctors that are daring to give actual medical advice when they are encouraged to lie and spread propaganda and myths and conspiracy theories. It can be people that are providing a safe space for their workers on a construction site, no matter what happens or what penalties or intimidation they face. It could be people like you that are online, retweeting, reposting, and creating content to get the truth out there and to get people organized and moving. We are seeing now that this administration is demanding up to 5 years of social media background profiles on people looking for visas into this country. I just read a story about a young man from Ireland who was denied entrance into this country because he had a meme of JD Vance making fun of him on his phone. What we're doing is bothering them. Us laughing at him. Listen, what happened in Iran is very serious. I have no doubt what you guys are saying with Project 2025. They were going to do something eventually because that's how these guys are. They're very weak, and so they do these things to try to seem strong. But you know what I think the actual reason for it was? The timing? Because we laughed at his little squeaky tank birthday parade. That's what I think happened. You're making him feel small. He's in the most powerful chair in the world with more money, more access, everyone kissing up to him, and he's miserable. He doesn't have a day of peace. And that's how it should be when you are someone doing evil against the most vulnerable people. And so good job, everyone. Keep it up. All right. It's been great. I am so excited. I will see you guys in, let's see, 2 weeks. Is that what we're looking at? 3 weeks. I'm very excited to actually 3 weeks, July 15th. Do some amazing things. Take care of yourselves and each other, and come back to class with your homework. Your summer hiatus homework is what we can do to make ourselves safer, more inspired, and try to take down this regime. That's what we're going to do together. And it's going to be hard. Yes, we're going to have some losses, of course, but it's going to be inspiring. And you all are the reasons for that, right? And we're going to support each other. This is a great community. And on behalf of myself and the entire Political Fixer team, I want to thank everyone. I'm Shawna Presley Vercher, the Political Fixer. Thank you to my Political Fixer family who is on here so much. I did not get everybody. Wendy and Cassandra, Kareem, Susie B, Spike 17, Catherine, Lily, Kathy Cat, it's such a cute name. Dirty Bud Blogger, Veronica Kennard, Lulu, Joe Eclectic, Liberty, of course, Dennis Cook, Marlene ML, Susan Graham. Thank you all so much for the gifts and the support and everything. We're going to have lots of fun stuff. 104,000 likes. You guys rock. I'm going to go find that abominable snowman. Be safe, everyone, and I will see you all soon. Hey, Vix, I'm so glad I didn't see you earlier. I'm so glad you're here. Have a good night. Oh, Zane, I didn't see you there.